And welcome everybody to the latest episode of the True Believers podcast here on the Fandom Podcast Network. We are here to talk about Agatha All Along, and we got a big show for you. It was a big episode of Agatha. There's just so much to go into, but I can't do it alone here on the True Believers podcast. And Kevin is still off wandering his own witch's road down under. That is okay because I have brought back in our favorite outside Marvel expert, the one and only Cat Cedar. Cat,
That's me.
are you feeling a little weekend? Did you bring my Blu-ray collection this week?
Shit. I bought something blue though.
You brought back our your little
Mini
piece of test rack Kevin left you, I see.
Yeah, but I forgot the Blu-ray collection. I apologize.
Oh well,
Remind me in 2 weeks.
Well, 2 weeks. Oh well, we don't have two-parters here. You know that, right?
No, I'm just a little behind.
Kevin informed you of this.
1 week to wake up, and the next week to remember to do it.
I gotcha. Well, it's funny too, Cap, because last week we talked about how we got the shortest episode of Agatha All Along, and this week we got the longest episode of Agatha All Along.
Oh, we needed it for this episode. This episode was a humdinger.
Yeah, this was a huge episode, and there was all kinds of things going on here as we were talking about Agatha All Along, episode 6, Familiar by Thy Side. Here on the True Believers podcast on the Fandom Podcast Network, and we're going to get into everything that is Agatha All Along. This was a huge episode for a lot of reasons, and we're going to get into all those reasons here in just a minute. But first, guys, before we go any farther, spoiler alerts. We are going to be diving deep into episode 6 and talking about it in every which way we can. So listen to the advice of Cap and Tony Stark, and just go with it. Spoilers, if you have not watched the episode, go watch the episode, and then from there, come back, rejoin the podcast, and we'll be glad to have you. Or if you are watching on YouTube, we are good with that. So with that, though, guys, let's move forward. And before we move forward, we got to look back a little bit. We got to talk about what's happening on the Fandom Podcast Network, specifically in True Believers. And Kat, we all know you're a huge Deadpool fan. It has been the year of Deadpool here at the Fandom Podcast Network, including our reactions to the recently released Deadpool and Wolverine, which just happened to come out on digital just a couple weeks ago, Kat.
It did. Believe it or not, I have not bought it yet. But I'm waiting to come out on DVD. I'll have the super special 19 copies of 53 videos. You know how they're going to do it.
Yeah, well, I'm sure we're going to have, I think the 4K DVD is coming out soon. The physical copies are here. I mean, there's going to be 18 million different copies. I think it hits Disney Plus here very shortly as well. But we had we had a lot of fun covering everything Deadpool here on the Fandom Podcast Network. We also went back even with some Couch Potato Theaters, and we released our original Deadpool Couch Potato Theater and did a new Couch Potato Theater for Deadpool 2 as well. Kat, I'm going to ask you real quick too. A lot of people are speculating when we're going to see Deadpool again in the MCU. What is your theory? Because I think they should have some fun with Deadpool and make Deadpool the new Stan Lee of the MCU and put him in a cameo in every MCU movie going forward.
That would be awesome. Honestly, I don't see any reason why he couldn't be in a Thunderbolt somewhere, even at the walk by, or in the like you said, a cameo. Because Thunderbolts is anybody from the Marvel Universe that was good or bad, and he easily could fit that role without any problem.
Well, I do think we will see him when it comes time for Avengers Secret Wars and maybe even Avengers Doomsday.
Yeah, I don't see why we wouldn't.
Yeah, we are not done with Deadpool in the MCU, and we love it. But two, if we're talking about True Believers, we have been covering Agatha all along from the beginning. This has been an amazing ride with Agatha here on True Believers. And Kat, I'm going to ask you a question real quick here, where we're at right now before we get into the episode 6. Right now, where would you rank Agatha as far as the Disney Plus shows? Because I had this conversation with a friend of mine, and I was surprised. He said he thinks it's the best one they've done.
I can't say it's the best one because I'm a diehard fan of Moon Knight, and I'm gonna probably put that at number one. But man, this is such a good show.
I'm going to be honest. For me, I can't. I would probably personally. I love Hawkeye and I love Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Me too.
This is definitely my top three. It might even be number two. I'd probably put it. I could easily put it between Hawkeye and Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I mean, obviously we're not quite done with it yet, so let's see how it plays out completely.
I was thinking number three as well, because Moon Knight's number one for me.
Mm-hmm.
Hawkeye's number two, obviously, because he's my favorite Avenger. And then I would say Agatha's number three, as it stands right now, at least.
Well, but one of the things that I am really enjoying about this series and what it has done is I think it's really elevated WandaVision and got a lot of people going back to watch WandaVision as well.
Oh, absolutely. You have to. Because,
yeah.
I mean, I don't know anybody that... I mean, I've already gone back and watched all of WandaVision on episode, I think it was 4. 3 or 4, I went back and I'm like, I don't remember any of this. I have to go back and watch WandaVision again. So I went back and, like, something you said on episode, I think it was 4 that you were talking about, I'm like going... Oh, shit, that's right. All right. I got to go back and watch WandaVision again to see what the hell I'm missing. And, I went back and watched the whole thing from 1 to all 7 or 8 episodes, whatever it was, in one day and binged it. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, a little bit of things make more sense now, but we are here to talk about Agatha All Along and its latest episode. And, you know, we're coming down to the final episode days here, Kat. After this week, we only have two weeks left. Episode 7 airs October 23rd, and the final 2 episodes air the day before Halloween, October 30th. And it's been a wild ride, but we're here to talk about the latest episode, Familiar by Thy Side. And once again, one final warning, listen to Cap and Tony. We got spoilers ahead, and so be ready because it's going to be a full spoiler show from this point forward. As we're talking about everything that happened in episode 6 of Agatha All Along. Let's open things up here. Kat had a little piece of Tesseract that Kevin left behind for me. That's because this is an MCU show, so we don't do segments. Oh, no, folks. We do phases. And it's time to enter phase 1, our plot description. So, yeah, ominous right from the start here because we get introduced to Wicked. In flashback, a teenager from Eastview is celebrating his bar mitzvah when he encounters Lilia. Reading on his palm something she does not disclose, Lilia casts the sigil on William to protect him, instantly forgetting his destiny as well. The party ends with the hex created by Wanda begins to fail while driving past Westview. William's parents have a car accident. He dies. At the same time, Billy Maximoff's soul enters William's body, awakening him. William has trouble adjusting after the accident due to his newfound ability to read minds and his lack of memory of life before. 3 years later, William and his boyfriend Eddie meet with Ralph Boner. Yes, that Ralph Boner, a.k.a. Pietro, a.k.a. Quicksilver, a.k.a. Agatha hijacked my house. I want my Blu-ray collection back. Of course, he used to be controlled by Agatha inside Wanda's X. He tells him about what happened there and about Wanda's twins, Billy and Tommy, making William realize he is actually the former. Determined to use the Witch's Road to find Tommy, William goes to Agatha and breaks Wanda's spell. In the present, Agatha escapes the mud and confronts William. Realizing the sigil has been destroyed, she deduces what his goal is and tells him that they must continue together since William cannot control his power. Mr. Cat, let's get your first reactions to this episode and what you saw.
Dude, I absolutely, like I said, last week I called flashback. This week it was a flashback. I loved this episode. I loved how they showed who gave him the sigil, which totally unexpected, but makes sense now that we think about it. Seeing Quicksilver was nobody. I mean, we thought we'd see his brother or maybe Wanda somewhere in a flashback, but no, we get Quicksilver. Oh my God, how hilarious was he?
We got Ralph Boner,
Sorry, yeah, Ralph Boner.
But Evan Peters might get more MCU time than Steve Rogers at this point.
Ooh, that's a toughie, but maybe. I mean, he was so good. It was so unexpected and so funny. I loved it. And then the episode itself was just, amazing. Just like you said, longest episode had to be one of the longest episodes because it had to give so much information that we needed, and we still didn't get everything we need or want. But like you said,
I think the importance of this episode and doing it in the way they did it is I think it was really important for the people who are not comic book fans to really get that behind the scenes story of how Billy became, how Billy Wanda Maximoff's son entered William Kaplan and how that came about. And yes, it is a little bit different than the comics, and we're going to get into that a little bit later. But overall, I think the episode really cleared up any confusion people might have. It told a good story, and I'm very intrigued to where they're going to go with these last 3 episodes from here, because there's still a lot, as many questions that this might have answered as far as teen Billy is concerned. It opened a lot of more questions for me as far as things that are going to be happening in these last 3 episodes and what could be happening in later Marvel projects as well, depending on what happens in these 3 episodes.
No doubt.
So
I'm excited.
Yeah, I am very excited for it. And of course, we are talking about Agatha All Along, episode 6, Familiar by Thy Side. But it is time to interface to and talk some Marvel trivia and Easter eggs. I'm going to release a little bit of that blessed Tesseract energy. Oh, and do we have an episode this week full of very interesting Easter eggs? And I'm just going to dive right into it. Kat and will comment as we go along. But up first, this episode is titled Familiar by Thy Side, which continues the trend of episodes being named after lyrics from the Ballad of the Witch's Road, but also connects to Agatha referring to Teen, a.k.a. Billy, as her pet and familiar in earlier episodes. All those loving little nicknames. Next up, though, and this was very interesting, if you had a keen eye, you might have seen that. You can see that William's bar mitzvah theme was magic, but spelled with a K, as seen here on the program. Mm-hmm. If you take out the C, we start getting some X-Men references here, Kat.
We do. Ilyana Rasputin.
Yeah, exactly. So, but very fun stuff there. Next up, though, guys, this is where it gets interesting. When Lilia tells William that his lifeline is broken in 2, you can see that inside her glass ball is William as Billy, now wearing his signature hoodie and sweater. Keen eye. You got to have that keen eye.
I actually noticed that. I was like, oh, wait, why is it black? Oh, he's wearing his now costume instead of his now outfit instead of his then outfit.
Yeah, exactly. Next, we find out Lilia was the one who put the sigil on William, which hides Billy's magic and presence from other witches, including herself. In the tarot card promotional poster for Agatha All Along, you can spot the sigil in the corners. This was a pretty big reveal in this episode, Kat. It was Lilia who did this, which makes me think, too, there's a little bit more to Lilia than we know, because we still haven't had her trial. Nope. We think she's dead at the moment, or at least not in a real good way. She's becoming a lot more important in this series than I think anybody had originally thought of.
Oh, she's got to have a comeback. Either episode 7 or episode 8 or episode 9. She's got to have a comeback. And the thing about this that I really liked, and they kept it true to the sigil's power because she made it for him. When she put it in his hoodie, and then walked out and said, "Hey, this belongs to a boy. I don't know who it was." Even she forgot who he was. That's how powerful that magic was. It's like, oh, damn.
Well, and they established that earlier in the series. That's how powerful that sigil was.
It was just cool how because it was her, we didn't know it, and how powerful and how quickly the magic worked, because she forgot, 30 seconds later who he was?
Yeah, exactly. So
I love that. That was great continuity reminder from the first episode.
That's one thing this show has done, is a great continuity, and it continued because while driving in the car before the accident, you can hear the radio playing snippets from Wanda and Vision's conversation in WandaVision episode 1. My wife and her flying saucers, my husband and his indestructible head, which is right from that first episode. So very, very little interesting Easter egg drop in there. And I've loved all these little things they've done for WandaVision tie-ins. They're not completely blatant, but they're fun little things that they've done throughout this series, Kat.
Absolutely. Like I said, like you said earlier, we were talking about it, that it makes you have to go back and watch WandaVision because, like, I don't remember them saying that. I don't remember them doing that. I need to go back and watch this again, which is why I did. I didn't catch the flying saucer one though, but it was just definitely, it was like one of those. Yep, you have to go back and watch this. You cannot not watch WandaVision again and be completely understanding of what's going on with all the little snippet side quirks and Easter eggs.
Yeah. Well, continuing the tie-ins, as William dies in the car, you can hear Billy and Tommy Maximoff say goodnight to each other. This is because this exact moment is happening at the same time Wanda is taking down the Hex in WandaVision's season finale and saying goodbye to Billy, Tommy, and Vision.
Yeah, no, that one I did actually catch. Like I said, I just recently rewatched it, so that one I did catch, and I did hear them say goodnight as well. So I'm like, that's why when he jumps awake, he says, Tommy.
Yeah, exactly. And continuing ties in with the show its own self, Alice shows up as a police officer who helps the Kaplans following the car accident. In episode 1, we found out Alice had the job at the mall because her former lieutenant helped her get the gig. So it's all coming full circle around it with Agatha All Along.
Everything's tying in.
We got guy Ralph Bohmer comes in again while talking to Billy and Eddie. Ralph mentions that he poisoned a dog because of Agatha, thus revealing he was the one who actually killed Sparky in WandaVision episode 5. But he wasn't done yet, because when Ralph tells Billy about Maximoff twins, it is similar to how Maria Hill described Wanda and Pietro back in Avengers Age of Ultron. Little speedster and his mind-reading brother. She described Wanda and Pietro as he's fast
and she's weird.
So now, Kat, this is something that threw a left curve, and I don't know if you noticed this in the when it happened, but we see here that Eddie sends Billy a black heart while they're texting. In episode 2, Lilia writes down the names of people Agatha needs to walk the Witch's Road, with one being a black heart. Many assume that it symbolized Rio, who talks about her black heart in episode 1, but maybe it actually symbolized Billy because Lilia couldn't say his name because of the sigil.
That's not what I thought. I was thinking more that he sent him a black heart because something you said when we were talking originally, that Mephisto's son could be involved, and that could have been Mephisto's son.
Yeah, I think this is one of those little things that it's thrown a lot of doubt into some theories there, and I think this could be pretty important in the last 3 episodes if we see how things play out. But a nice little move there by the creators and writers.
Makes more questions, that's for sure.
Obviously, we also finally get to see what happened really to Agatha when she was a Westview detective, when she thought she was a Westview detective in episode 1. And we just need to shout out the Boner family reunion shirt she's wearing, because she's taken over Ralph's house and she's using a hose nozzle as a gun.
I had to go back and watch the first episode and see if she was actually wearing that shirt.
Yeah, it was quite. You didn't pay attention to it because you were so wrapped up into the storyline. So
nah, I didn't even notice the shirt the first time. Dude, I was like, all right, cool, black and white shirt, whatever. Yep. And like, oh, wait a minute, I had to go back and watch that again. Oh my gosh, Jesus, why didn't I see that the first time?
I think a lot of people were saying that. So, when Billy tells Agatha he's not like her, it's similar to when Wanda also said she wasn't like Agatha in the WandaVision finale. So yet a little bit more ties. Yeah. And finally, Kat, Billy says he can sense Tommy, which is similar to how Wanda could always sense Pietro and even knew when he died in Age of Ultron.
Well, they're twins, and they're twins of her magic. I mean, it would make sense. I mean,
yes, I agree.
Twins of her magic.
Yep, I agree. Again, they are doing such a phenomenal job of just tying things together in even the most minuscule ways. And
yeah,
this is just the quality that this show has, and I think this is why the show ranks so high. But you know what?
It's not that. It's just that the directors and writers and producers they're reading their shit. They're
Yeah.
like seeing
Well,
people
that and
saying, and they're reading the comics and using the information, and then they're
well,
remembering what they wrote down. Like, oh, we said
and I
that here. Hey,
and
let's
I
tie
think
that
that's the
in.
difference between this show and some of the other recent Marvel Disney Plus things, Kat. And that's if you agree with me or not. A lot of those things shows have felt rushed, and this
Some,
show
yes,
feels like they really put their time into it and really paid attention to the details.
they had to. If not, it would not. I don't think if they didn't, this show would not be top three, and this show's tie-ins and snippets and things we're finding wouldn't be nearly as good as they are.
Yeah,
They're doing primo job.
yeah, I agree. But looking at it, I'm feeling that we need to boost this podcast with a little bit more Tesseract energy before we shift into phase 3. Okay, it is time to enter phase 3 of this True Believers podcast as we continue to cover everything that is Agatha All Along. Phase 3 is where we do a little plot analysis and ties to the comics and MCU. And we've got a lot of interesting things that I've been able to kind of scrounge up as we've gone along here, Kat. So let's take a look into some of those things here with Agatha All Along. Episode 6 dives into Billy Maximoff's MCU backstory. And I think this is important we say that. And brings back Evan Peters without breakout WandaVision character Ralph Boner, a.k.a. Fake Pietro. Agatha All Along episode's 5 ending revealed that Joe Locke's mysterious teen character is Billy Maximoff, a.k.a. Wiccan, the Scarlet Witch reincarnated son. As episode 5 suggests, Agatha Harkness has already suspected Billy's true identity, but she only confirmed her suspicions when she realized that her son Nicholas Scratch was still dead and Billy used magic spells similar to Wanda's. Following Billy's identity reveal, Agatha All Along takes a break from the Witch's Road trials to explore Billy's story. Meanwhile, Agatha Harkness recovers from being sent into a swamp while the remaining witches in Agatha's coven remain absent. At this point, Agatha and Billy must leave their differences aside in order to complete the Witch's Road. Curiously, though, Agatha All Along episode 6 plot shows Agatha Harkness under a different light, as Billy's point of view underlines how Agatha played a key role in Wanda, Vision, Tommy, and the original Billy Maximoff's death before Wanda condemned her to Westview. So, Kat, I think first and foremost, the thing we need to dive into here a little bit deeper is the origin of Billy Kaplan in the MCU versus Marvel Comics. And while the biggest reveal in Agatha All Along episode 6 might be Billy's origin story, according to episode 6, William Kaplan was celebrating his bar mitzvah in Eastview when Wanda Maximoff's Westview hex collapsed. William managed to escape with his parents, but the ensuing chaos caused his parents' car to swerve and crash. William's parents survived the accident, but William didn't make it. William apparently survived, according to the doctors, but his body was actually served as a vessel for Billy Maximoff's spirit. As a result, Billy had to start a new life in William's body. Billy's origin, as depicted in Agatha All Along episode 6, follows a lot of the similar beats as the source material, barring WandaVision's Westview hex, which is original to the MCU. After his rebirth, Billy doesn't have memories of Williams Kaplan's life, but he also struggles to remember his brief life as Billy Maximoff in Wanda's Westview illusion. Although Billy's spirit was reincarnated with similar magic talents to his original self, he still had to do a great deal of studying and researching in order to bring out Wiccan's powers in Agatha All Along episode 5. Now, Kat, we talk about Wiccan and Speed in the comics. It gets a little complicated. We've got pieces of Mephisto's soul, Master Pandemonium, demon kid's hands, all kinds of things. I think for the MCU and what they're doing here, they did the right approach. They kept the beats the same in a lot of the basic string of Wiccan's origin there without all of the complications.
I fully agree. If they used the Marvel Comics version, I think everybody would be going, huh?
Yeah,
And be very
there
confused.
would be a lot of questions.
This way they did it. They sort of simplified Billy dying, using the last of his power to insert himself into the closest dead vessel, William,
Yeah,
and taking over his body, giving his dead body time to sort of cope with what's going on and regenerate himself so that he'll be living, and then now he has, like you said, relearn his magic, and they kept it so close to the last episode of WandaVision that it just,
Yeah,
You
it's about
could
a
almost be
3-year.
watching WandaVision episode 2 or season 2.
Yeah, according to this episode, it's a 3-year time lapse from when the time
Right.
Billy Maximoff takes over William Kaplan's body to
Again,
where
time to
the
regenerate
events of
and heal.
Agatha happened. So that's interesting. But there's another interesting thing if you want to talk about ties to the comic, and I think this is actually kind of cool, Kat. William Kaplan's Jewish heritage is directly taken from the Marvel Comics and is a big part of his identity and backstory. Billy Kaplan, aka Wiccan, first appeared in Young Avengers issue number 1 in 2005, which doesn't seem that long ago, but yeah, I can't believe it's been that long since Young Avengers, and was created by Alan Heinberg, who is gay and Jewish, just like Billy. So a little bit of ties to the creator himself there.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to say this, Kat, because I think what they've done with Wiccan is brilliant to this point, and I'm really impressed with how they've done everything. And I think the final 3 episodes are going to be so interesting to see how they play out Wiccan through the rest of this, because Wiccan was always the one who kind of embraced being a hero, but there was still a reluctancy to him in the comics, but he was also the one who accepted, he was the one who was pushing for a lot of things. So I'm curious to see how they're going to play this up with Wiccan, Kat, and I'm really interested to see if there is going to be a designation for Wiccan going forward in the MCU after Agatha All Along. I think there has to be if they're going to set up what they are talking about setting up. But it's been a fun ride.
Avengers. They've got to set up Young Avengers. But yeah, they're doing. I mean, the questions are going to just keep coming until we can get the last episode. I also liked when they showed him walking down the aisle and people were tapping his clothing and tapping him with, as a Jewish tradition, but they kept the color palette very similar to a light toned, and then really accentuated the blue, which is big in Wiccan's costume, with his menorah and his vestiges. And like they did such a good. And when he was dancing in the the flashback, he's wearing blue and blue and blue and sort of leading down that Wiccan way. I have a feeling they're going to keep him. I'm hoping as Wiccan, slowly growing into his powers for the next 3 episodes, and then, like I said, just coming forth at the end and the big fight. I'm not sure what the fight's going to be now. I mean,
yeah, I'm very curious as to it as well. And just I'm maybe after the end of WandaVision, we see a certain person come up to Mr. Kaplan and say, "I'd like to speak to you about the Young Avengers initiative."
Yeah, no, they have to. It has to be the end credit scene of the last episode.
Well, we'll talk a little bit more about that because I have another theory as well. But next up, we got to talk about this guy. Evan Peters returns as Ralph Boner and tells Billy about his WandaVision experience. Before venturing down the Witch's Road, Billy sets out to investigate Agatha Harkness's identity and the Westview incident. During his research, Billy comes across a mysterious Redditor who lived in Westview during the Hex called Bonerific69. The Redditor turns out to be Ralph Boner, the Westview resident who became Agatha Harkness's puppet inside the Westview Hex. Ralph Boner explains his experience to Billy, recounting how Agatha mind-controlled him and turned him into a Pietro Maximoff imposter in order to manipulate Wanda. The more I think about it, we really needed an Evan Peters cameo in Deadpool.
That would have been great.
Yeah.
He would have been good to have in the...
they could have had some real fun with that. Although Evan Peters played Quicksilver in Fox's X-Men movie franchise before he played the Pietro Maximoff imposter in WandaVision, Agatha All Along doesn't acknowledge Quicksilver's X-Men variant in any way. Instead, Peters' Ralph Boner makes it clear he was a regular Westview resident before the incident and also explains how deeply it affected him emotionally. Ralph's insight helped Billy confirm that Agatha is the witch he needs to find. I was not expecting this, Kat. I'm going to be honest with you. I did not expect to see Evan, much like in WandaVision, I did not expect to see Evan Peters on my screen again, and they got me again, even though it makes much more sense this time around than it did in WandaVision.
Yeah, no, this one made a lot more sense, but I had not expected to see him. I had no clue he was going to be in the episode. They kept that.
Yeah,
they're
getting better and better at it. I think as long as they keep Tom Holland away from everything. I think here too, Kat, it's just again, it just goes back to the touches that is making this show so great is pulling these tie-ins, getting these people to come back and make these appearances, having these moments. It does make it feel like it's a larger part of the MCU. It lifts up the WandaVision show even more. And I think there's a lot of lessons Marvel can and that Marvel Studios can take from what they've done with this series if they're going to do second seasons of other series or tying some of these shows back into the MCU. And I'm just so impressed by it. I can't rave about it enough. This is
just to tie ins alone, man.
This is some of the best tying things in since early on in the Infinity Saga.
Yeah, just like I said, just to tie ins alone make this show so good, and
Yeah.
the great attention to details to tie it in with the smallest snippet of another show that you wouldn't even think. Like I said, if you don't watch WandaVision, you'd be so confused by so many of these quote unquote questions and comments and nods. You'd be like, I don't get that.
Yeah.
But and they did it with other movies too. Like if you don't watch this movie, you wouldn't understand that movie. It's like they are getting phenomenal at this, and I only hope that they continue down this path by rewatching what they did, realizing what they did, and then follow that continuously for the next, all the movies, next shows, next tie-ins, next references, next end credit scenes. I mean, I think honestly, in my opinion, it was the end credit scenes that really started all the tie-in stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I want you to be an Avenger. Hey, I want you to do this. Hey, I want you to bring in this. Hey, I want you to come here. I want you to work with me. And they saw how good that was. Just the smallest minute or two of a scene at the end of the movie. This is easily what makes this show number 3 for me. All those simple little time, like bringing back the fake Quicksilver. That was huge, so funny, so good, and just perfect. I mean,
yeah,
it makes no sense.
I agree. But here's the other thing, Cap. We still have we haven't got all of our questions answered, and there's a couple of things hanging out we need to address here. First and foremost, what about the rest of our coven? Billy and Agatha believe Billy killed Lilia and Jen. After Billy unleashes his magical powers and mind control the coven he mind controls the coven to send them into a swamp. Agatha Harkness is the only witch to make it out alive. She comes out of the swamp and reunites with Billy, confronting him for keeping his real identity and goals a secret from her. Agatha reminds Billy that his tantrum probably led to Lilia and Jennifer Kale's deaths, but shrugs it off and suggests moving on. However, Agatha also advises Billy not to be guilty about his talent and recognizes his efforts to rebuild his life after reincarnating. Although Lilia and Jennifer seem to have drowned in the swamp, they must still be alive somewhere in the Witch's Road. After all, trailers for Agatha All Along's upcoming episodes have included footage of the two witches that hasn't appeared in the show yet, and Lilia is the only member of the coven that hasn't completed her own trial in the road. Lilia and Jen are likely to reappear in Agatha All Along episode 7, where Lilia's visions may finally make sense. I think this is huge. I don't think they're dead. I'm not even convinced that Alice and Mrs. Foreman are dead either. I think there's a lot more to this story and things with the Witch's Road.
And I'm not sure about Mrs. Foreman's character. She, I think, might be dead.
Yeah.
But it would be a real kick in the would be that if they unmask the 7, that these women are all part of the 7.
Yeah, it could be interesting. I mean, and that's the thing. Yeah, that's the thing, Kat. We still have the Salem 7, which I think is the final ending, going to be the final confrontation.
Yeah, the end-all big boss fight will probably be them, and then, as I said, Wanda versus if Wanda comes in.
Yeah, I don't know if Wanda comes in or not, unless they're going to set it up. And as popular as this show has been, maybe they have this written to do a second season.
Absolutely.
With Wiccan and Agatha, maybe they're continuing the search for Tommy, which we're going to get into in just a minute. But we have not. These two characters are going to pop up. Like I said, Lilia has not had her trial yet, and I still think that's a key part. And I think that's what episode 7 is going to focus on, is these two characters.
I think it has to, because they showed her in the flashback. They've got to finish her little arc. They haven't finished it yet.
And I just can't believe Wiccan would kill them.
I don't think they're dead. I think he just knocked them out and then sort of, like you said, subconsciously, because he's not fully aware of all of his powers yet.
Yeah.
So I think that's what he probably did. Like you said, he probably just knocked him out, and then excuse me, when they were leaving, walking towards the next trial, we probably didn't like an off-screen kind of like pull them out of the muck, and then on episode 7 we'll see them climbing out of the muck or being pulled out of the muck, and then sort of waking up and what happened, what's going on kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest questions for episode 7. I think they have to address. But Kat, the other big issue that is floating around here is we have Wiccan. Where's Tommy? Where and Speed? And if you're watching on YouTube, you see on the screen we have both the live action and comic versions of them. When Agatha confronts Billy after coming out of the swamp, she questions him about his motivations to venture down the witch's road. She torments Billy about Wanda and Vision's death before guessing that instead of acquiring power, he wants to find Tommy at the end of the road. Or Toby at the end of the road. Billy corrects her, saying that he's in fact trying to find his twin brother, Tommy Maximoff. Billy believes Tommy is out there somewhere, as he can sense his brother, but can't pinpoint his exact location. We've got that in the comics. Tommy Maximoff also reincarnates in the body of an existing teenager, Thomas Shepard, who constantly gets in trouble due to his speed-based powers. In the meantime, Iron Lad recruits Billy into Young Avengers, and the team travels to the detention facility where Tommy is imprisoned. Billy and Tommy realize they look like identical twins as soon as they meet, and Billy's Skrull Kree boyfriend Hulkling confirms that Billy and Tommy are in fact reincarnated twins. Agatha All Along and the MCU's Young Avengers adaptations may soon adapt Tommy's comic story accurately. So, Kat, I think the big question here is, do we see Tommy Maximoff before the series ends?
Sorry about that. I'm going out on a guess. He either does the Wolverine appearance at the end in episode issue 181 of Hulk. He's on the last panel of the last episode of episode 7. He like sort of appears and there he is. Or he's going to appear in episode 8. If he appears at all.
So my feeling is that Tommy Maximoff is the stinger for this show. I think when episode 9 ends, after the credits, we might see the location of where Tommy Maximoff is. And the question is going to be, what is it setting up? Are we setting up something with Young Avengers? Are we setting up a season 2 of Agatha? Because I think the rest of the show is about Wiccan and Agatha each coming to terms with things in their own lives. I think Agatha still has her biggest confrontation with the things she's done. And, let's be honest, right now we've got full on evil Agatha mode going. Let's be realistic about it. Since the end of episode 6, we are in full on evil Agatha.
But that's the best Agatha.
Yeah, I agree, but we're also in that aspect right now. So how is that going to play out? There's so many questions, and yet I feel this is one of those times where we have 3 episodes left, and I really truly feel like we're going to get the answers to most of those questions in these final 3 episodes.
We have to.
I mean,
they can't leave us completely hanging and not answer those 3 questions.
I think we have. Yeah, we've got Tommy, we've got Agatha with the Salem 7 and the end of the Witch's Road. And I think this show still has 1 or 2 really big reveals or just gut punches to hit us with before it's all said and done.
Now that you say that, he might be, if they do the prison where Tommy actually is, that could be an introduction to potentially showing us who Iron Lad might be and recruiting Wiccan to free him for the Young Avengers, but not telling who he is.
Yeah, there's so many questions still out there.
That would be a cool thing to do too.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions still out there, and I think that's where my anticipation is as much as I'm looking forward to the wrap up of the show. It's what the show is looking at setting up in the future that I'm really starting to get intrigued by as well. And I think that's
the future is going to be so huge.
Yeah, it's going to be incredibly huge. And while we're talking about the future, it's time to add in that last little bit of Tesseract energy as we shift into phase 4. Don't lick the Tesseract piece, Cat.
But my inner Flokin wants to eat it.
You might like to think it is. It's not catnip. But okay, Kat, let's get into our final thoughts and maybe some predictions of what we're going to see ahead. We've kind of done that a little bit. We just got done covering everything that was episode 6, Familiar by Thy Side of Agatha All Along here on True Believers. Kat, any predictions for you personally? I know we've talked about Tommy, we've talked about Wanda. Is there anything that maybe we haven't talked about in the range of this episode, that something that you predict or something you're hoping to see in these as we hit these final 3 episodes?
I want to see the other witch's trial. I want to see what they're going to do for her. I want to see them come back because, like you said, they're not dead. And it's just, next week's episode's got to be that episode where we get a few questions answered, we get the rest of the trial completed for all the coven. We got to bring back Riho. I mean, so much stuff they got to do. How long is the next week's episode? 5 hours.
Well, we don't have run times yet, so
5 hours, 6 hours.
Yeah. I think that's the big thing for me that I haven't talked about yet is the Rio aspect of all of this. If Rio is death, what's going on there? That's why I'm saying I think these witches that we've seen pass could end up being resurrected. Maybe death. No. Death has been known to get a little soft spot every once in a while in the Marvel comics.
Yeah, she has.
So it's going to be the Rio aspect is big of this. What is Agatha's final goal? We still really don't have full clarity on that. I still think there's more with Nicholas Scratch, which I think we'll get into when the Salem 7 confrontation hits.
So much stuff.
There's a lot of stuff. The more we go to, the more I'm thinking we're going to get a second season of Agatha.
We have to,
because one, I think the show has been a huge hit for Marvel, and Disney Studios and MCU Studios, and I think they want us to be. I think if I'm Marvel and Disney, I want to be in the Catherine Hahn business as much as I can be.
Oh yeah, mm-hmm.
And I think that's a big thing. I think this show is going to set up a lot, Kat, and I think we mentioned Iron Lad a little bit. That could be something we see play out a little bit further down the line in the upcoming Avengers films, especially with the now Robert Downey Jr. Doctor Doom shift, and knowing who Kang is and ties in with that. I think there's a lot of interesting directions we could go. And we could speculate a lot of things, but I think that's the mistake we shouldn't be making a whole lot of.
No, if we do, this video is going to be 5 hours long.
Well, and I also just think, you know what, we need to let them, instead of trying to speculate and put our own thoughts on this. I really think we're at a point right now where we need to trust in the MCU and Disney to see if they can make the adjustments that we think they are making, and seeing what direction they go and how they write the ship. Because I'm. So if Agatha is an indication of what we're going to get going forward for the MCU, and I'm really excited for Captain America. I'm really excited for Thunderbolts.
So you mean trusting Kevin Feige?
Well, and trusting Kevin Feige, but that's the other thing too. Ironheart is the next show on Disney Plus. That's supposed to come out
right
after the first of the year, and obviously that's been in a long time in production. I'm actually surprised we're still getting that show. But the Hood is a major villain in that show, and we know the Hood has some ties into some of this magic side.
He's Mephisto
as well.
He's got lots of ties with Mephisto.
So who knows what's going to happen? And that's just massive speculation on my part at this point. Right now, I just want to enjoy the last 3 episodes of Agatha All Along and enjoy this ride that we're on. But you know what? It's been phenomenal. All the credit in the world. Like I said, Catherine Hahn's a tour de force. Everybody in this cast has been great. The show has been amazing from the get-go. I'm thoroughly enjoying it, and I can't wait to see how it wraps up. We're down to 2 more episodes of True Believers covering it, and 3 more episodes of Agatha All Along altogether. But Kat, as I can see here, Agatha is giving us the purple look and those eyes. I think it might be time to wrap things up and get out of here before she gets a little too power drainy. And you're holding the Tesseract, so you would go first.
Oh, my Tesseract.
Of course, we have been covering everything that is Agatha All Along here on the True Believers podcast that covers everything that's happening in the MCU here on the Fandom Podcast Network. And of course, you can find the Fandom Podcast Network all kinds of places. If you're watching this on our YouTube channel, we thank you for watching. Please give us a like, give us a subscribe, share us out. You can also, of course, find us on our audio home at fpnet.podbean.com. And of course, we are on all your favorite podcast apps as well, whether it's iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, so many others. You can also follow us on Facebook, whether it's Fandom Podcast Network itself or True Believers page or anything that's going on in the Fandom Podcast Network. Lots of exciting things, as always. And, Kevin is on hiatus. Hopefully he hasn't fallen into the mud of the Butcher's Road down under. I hear giant spiders and kangaroos are big problems on that particular road. And, I didn't tell him about the clowns before he left. I'm leaving that to Aaron to tell him. If you follow their social media, I think you might know by now. But, of course, you can find me, Kyle, on social media, on Facebook and all the great pages there. You can find me on Twitter/X at AKyleW. You can also find me on Discord at AKyleW. You can find me on Instagram and Threads at AKyleFandom. You can find Kevin all over the place on social media at Spartan_Phoenix. Kat, when you're not using the Tesseract as a salt lick, where can people find you on social media?
But it's so tasty as a salt lick. You can find me only on Facebook and Instagram and X/Twitter, and it's at StaticCat1.
Well, until next time, guys, the magic will continue to flow as we will be covering everything that is Agatha All Along until the ride is done, and it's been quite a ride. And I just want to say, too, thank you to Kat for joining us on this ride. Buddy. It and filling in while Kevin's gone. It's great talking MCU and not having to give an education. It's fun giving Kevin an education. We like giving Kevin an education.
Oh,
but sometimes it just the magic flows with when you have two people who know what they're talking about with the MCU. But we miss you, Kevin. We love you. We wish you were here because I would love you.
Don't come back. Stay there.
What's that?
Miss you, love you. Don't come back. Come back. Wait, we miss you. Stay there.
Yeah, but we can't figure it out. We blame the Britches Road. We blame Agatha. It's all about that. But until next time, everybody, this has been the True Believers podcast on the Fandom Podcast Network. And as always, we close out with two things: Excelsior and make ours Marvel.